With recent tensions in Ukraine dominating news headlines of the past few months, many seem to be considering what truly Ukraine's relationship with NATO, the Northern Atlantic Treaty Organization, is. Are they friends, distant collaborators, or just a means to achieve each other's security goals? The already complex relationship between Ukraine and NATO is further complicated by Russia, who has stated that a potential Ukraine and NATO partnership would lead to some of the harshest consequences possible, according to the New York Times. The existing relationship and Russia's threats have made many in the West wonder what truly should be the relationship between Ukraine and NATO, and should, in order to avert war, accept Ukraine into NATO. Yes, Western powers should accept Ukraine into NATO. First, Ukraine needs backing from NATO and international powers to maintain its security and independence from Russian aggression. And second, the potential addition of Ukraine to NATO serves as a continual bulwark against Russian expansionism in Eastern Europe. Through the addition of Ukraine and NATO, Western leaders can kill two of the most important geopolitical birds in Eastern Europe with one stone. Now, to give out some background. In 1992, Ukraine, a newly independent nation, sought to establish ties with NATO to begin economic integration into Europe and gain general protection against the possibility of Russian encroachment, according to the NATO's official website. While this request was granted, NATO never went further than this arrangement so that they didn't anger or agitate Russian influence in the region. Fast forward to 2014, when Russia invaded and subsequently seized the Crimean Peninsula from Ukraine. NATO intervened both economically and logistically to help the Ukrainians retain the peninsula. Again, NATO stopped short of officially accepting Ukraine into the fold, even though it lent considerable support to it. Now, in 2022, Russia continues to extol massive pressure over Ukraine, as thousands of troops are stationed at the border between the two nations, provoking tensions and raising fears of war, according to AP. Russia, in its recent buildup, has stated how NATO's advancement in relations with Ukraine are a major reason for the recent flare-up in tensions, according to Al Jazeera. Now, NATO again stands at the precipice, seeking to help Ukraine and fight Russia while officially remaining neutral in regards to membership. Ukraine is in dire need of NATO protection support, and admission into the organization would be a clear affirmation of Ukraine's sovereignty and self-determination by the Western world. Currently, without official Western backing, Ukraine is subject to ruthless misinformation and propaganda campaigns by the Kremlin. Vladimir Putin repeatedly pushes the myth that Russia and Ukraine are, quote-unquote, one people, separated by artificial and arbitrary borders. He pushes the idea that Russia seeks to reunite these separated people, and that Russian intervention will be one of the only ways to do that, according to Vox. These lies have been responsible for political destabilization and separatist movements in Ukraine already, and the Ukrainian government simply is helpless to do anything about it. Stepping it up to a notch, not only has Russia been winning the propaganda war, it has already physically invaded Ukraine in the past. In 2014, Russia invaded the Crimean Peninsula and annexed it after numerous Black Ops campaigns and general unrest in Ukraine itself. While Ukraine did receive international help, it could not successfully recover the territory, and to this day, Crimea remains a part of Russia, according to Britannica. While Ukraine has never had the luxury of having allies to depend upon, international action has proven that it can protect Ukraine in the past. After Russia's illicit annexation of Ukraine, the Western world levied some of the harshest sanctions in modern history against Russia, leading to the collapse of the Russian ruble and a sizable downturn in their economy, according to The Guardian. With these sanctions, one of Russia's main assets and economy crumbled within only a few months, showing that concerted international actions can harm Russia and protect Ukraine from further action. Without concerted international action, Ukraine has been the subject of Russian bullying for the past 20 years, and has no one to rely on in order to help fight against its Protestant propaganda and military presence. If Ukraine had the privilege of NATO backing it, Ukraine can be confident in its independence and self-determination, and act forcefully against Russian aggression with the assurance of NATO insistence. Jingoistic Russian foreign policy has for too long been a haunting specter for Ukraine. Without the international backing it so desperately needs, Ukraine remains at the fingertips of Vladimir Putin and the Kremlin. Ukraine is in desperate need of international help. Enter NATO. If NATO were to accept Ukraine into the organization, Ukraine would have the ability to assert itself against Russia, and NATO would have a bulwark of defense in Eastern Europe, a situation which fits both sides perfectly. Ukraine must be allowed to join NATO, for the safety of the world and for the continued existence of the Ukrainian nation as we know it.